Hey friends, we're back in the kitchen again for another experiment. This one's pretty cool and it's going to tell us a lot about our weather and the rain. Here is what you're going to need to get this one set up. So now my water is boiling. We heated it up, which is causing it to expand, get lighter, and to rise. And you can see a lot of it is rising and escaping from the pot. This is something that we call evaporation. It happens outside too. It happens off lakes, rivers, ponds, puddles, even that delicious glass of lemonade you might be sipping. But remember, we had something else, something really cool to check out. Let's head to the freezer real quick and get the top to the pot that we put in here. Yummy chicken, right? Okay. Now, just like outside, the water will rise. It's all heated. Eventually, it's going to hit something cool. Edge of our atmosphere, maybe, or at least as high as it can go. And you can see something is starting to form. In fact, even underneath, we can really see that it is catching a lot of that water vapor. All these vapors rising. And they're doing something on the inside of that glass. I know you can see that it is getting very heavily laden with water. This is a really cool process that we call condensation. The water is condensing because it's getting cold. And remember, it's heated, gets lighter, rises, expands, but when it gets cooled down, condenses back down, gets heavier, much heavier, really heavy. In fact, it's so heavy and so condensed that you can start to see it in the form of clouds. And of course, what happens when enough of that cloud activity occurs and those clouds get very heavily laden with water, just like the top to this pot? Well, let's come over here to see it. I know you can see that rain shower. Precipitation. Pretty fantastic. Let's see it again. In fact, this time I'm just going to put that cooled down top, right on top. And let's talk about these steps again. The evaporation, the water vapors heading up. And then the condensation, when it gets heavy and starts to collect again. And finally, the precipitation, when it starts to rain. Let's see that happen again. Look at all that evaporation. Look at all that condensation. Now, so thick, it just looks like there's a layer of water. And then precipitation. This is exactly what happens with our water cycle. Let's take this down to off. Let everybody know that there's a hot surface here in a boiling pot of water. And we'll just put that over here to cool down. And we're going to head back down to the studio to talk about this a little bit more. See you there. Well, friends, after you tried making it rain a couple of times, maybe you want to know a little more about this process and how it happens out in the real world. Because we don't necessarily take a lake and stick it in a pot and boil it. But evaporation does happen out in nature all the time. It's one of the amazing, powerful forces that helps to govern our world. So let's take a look at this chart. And you can see a river flowing down from the highlands to the lower lands, across the land and towards the sea. And there it's going to mix with the sea, and all the water just swirls around under the nice, hot sun. Well, as the sun shines down and heats all the air and the water and the land, the water evaporates, and it rises as vapor into the air, just like we saw from our pot. Clouds form as the vapor cools and condensates, and it condenses into those beautiful clouds, and many different types of clouds as well. But as the air is cooling, it just cannot hold that moisture anymore, and it begins to release it. And that's when we see that precipitation. All that water falls back to earth, where it collects together and begins to flow again. And this cycle happens over and over and over and over and over, and it's called the water cycle. It's pretty fantastic, and I've got a little song for you. Are you ready? Evaporation, condensation, precipitation. That's how the water cycle boogie goes. Yeah. So there's a little song you can sing to celebrate what you just learned today about the water cycle. And I want to talk to you more about how rain forms as well, because there are some other ways. It's not always quite so simple. But that, my friends, is a story for another day.